Boom! All right, welcome back, Grand Training Systems. Today, your back is not broken, your movement system is. If you had a rock in your shoe and you cut your foot off, or you made a grilled cheese sandwich and you burnt the entire house down, I would argue there's A, more efficient way, B, a smarter way, and C, a much less dramatic way where you get to keep your house and your goddamn foot. All right, so in 3 minutes or less, let's talk about what in the world is going on. All right, number one, your back hurts. I get it. Everybody does. Google the statistics. It's not going to get any better. However, two, we got to ask why. And one, the bigger the disaster you are, the better. That's what I tell all my clients. That is like the motto of my online programs. Because the thing is, if you took your car to a mechanic and it was pulling to the right, it was squeaking when it brakes, and sometimes it wouldn't turn on. As you tell that to the mechanic, he is thinking, oh, okay, the tires probably need to be aligned, the battery's probably old, and the brakes are probably old too. So then when you would come back a few hours later, he would take a look and say, hey, you know what? Exactly what I thought was wrong with it. For X amount of dollars, we can fix it. Everybody's happy. Everybody moves on. Worst case scenario is you tell him those things, you come back, it was none of them. Your car doesn't work, he calls you a taxi, you have no car, and you got to pay him for his time, and he loses the client. It is literally a lose-lose-lose situation for everybody. So what in the world happened? Well, one, physical education failed us. There's no physical education in physical education. They just have us play floor hockey and learn how to square dance, and that's basically it. We don't learn how to move, we don't learn how to squat, we don't learn how to bend, we don't realize that even grandma and grandpa, when they throw their son in the air, or their grandson at that time, son would be pretty impressive, they're clean and jerking in Olympic lifting. When you sit and stand, same thing, you're doing a squat. When you pick something up, you're doing a deadlift. All of us, no matter our age, no matter our activity level, athletic level, we do these movements every single day. So you need to learn how to do them. But when we look at the basic primers of these complex movements, people can't even do it. In our tips, what we're gonna go through, we're gonna learn how to basically hump, how to move our hips side to side, and we're gonna realize that everybody moves like they're goddamn dinosaurs. Because of this, that is why our area is hurting. Because the bigger the disaster, meaning if we're not able to isolate these areas in our hips and we're complaining of that pain, well, think of the window you have in your house or grandma has in her house that has not been open for ages, and then when you try to open that thing up, it gets stuck. It's the same thing with your back. So God forbid we want to go to a surgeon that is specialized in fixing things that need to be fixed, like if you got hit by a truck, and he's going to realize the pain is similar. He's going to take a look at your spine and say, oh, okay, yeah, well, it looks like it's been used and abused. Yeah, because you're not 10 days old anymore. And the first thing they're going to want to do is either dope you up on some medication, give you some physical therapy, most likely from a therapist that has better things to do, and no one's going to be teaching you how to open up that area, move that area, and if that window doesn't open, you don't need a goddamn new house. All right, so step one is let's actually test where we are. And this is very cool because we're gonna learn to know if we're gonna see if you know how to move. And two, if you do, we're gonna find out where you are. So now I've taken my shirt off because my corporate colors are terrible. Everything is dark gray. Hopefully you can see it better now. I'm sorry if my stomach is not as sexy as your beautiful Instagram favorite stars, but I'm working on it. So from here, what I'm gonna look at is I'm gonna stand normal. Take your shoes off, feel free, just make sure you're not in like stilettos or whatever. And from here, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna see where I am. So, meaning I'm gonna stand here, I'll get my arm out of the way, and from here, I'm gonna now curl my hips under. Now, if you're not able to do that, don't worry about it. That's just good because now we learned that you don't know how to move with your hips into a posterior tilt, which is important. That's the next step. And then say, okay, how far did I move into this position? Was it a lot? Was it a little? And then kind of go back to normal, do a little shake, try to get yourself into a neutral position. You can even grab a glass of water if you want. So then when you come back, you stand again in most likely your neutral position. And from here, I'm now gonna go into an anterior tilt, which means because we measure everything from the top, my hips are gonna tilt forward. So it's kind of like that duck butt, as we like to say. What I'm gonna do is from my neutral position, I'm gonna then roll forward. Now you're probably asking, where in the world am I going with all of this? Now that you've done both, we get to see what you do more. So for example, if my neutral position is here, And I can only go a little bit into an anterior tilt, but I can roll and roll and roll until the cows come home this direction. Then I know that I am standing more in an anterior tilt, or that duck butt position. Now, just so you know, we have two little bumps here and here, and they should be at about a 15-degree angle. So that means we shouldn't be like this, but we also shouldn't be completely flat. That would also be wrong. But for right now, don't worry about all that jazz. What we want to focus on is just knowing where we are. Are we completely in this anterior tilt position because my movement here is limited? Or are we somewhere here where I can't really go into a posterior tilt, is what we would call this, and it's very easy for me to go into that duck butt position. By knowing that, we can understand where exactly we are, because that's going to be important when we later go into some stretches on either opening up the hip flexor because we're stuck like this, or opening up the hamstrings because we're stuck like that. All right, so now that we know where we are or where we aren't, we're going to work on the anterior tilt. So that means I'm going to work on bringing only my pelvis into this position. So I don't want to be moving like this or like that. I want to see, can I just move at the pelvis? And I know, not only from my physical therapy experience, that a lot of people struggle with this, but I also dance a bunch of salsa and bachata, which is going to be the, what do you call it? The extra credit at the end if you're able to do a movement. So through this, I see often many people moving in this global like block. That's not what we want. We want to segment it out into this position. Now I'm showing the standing version right now. After I'm gonna show the lying version, because that might be easier for you, and there's different tips and tricks we can focus on. But as you see, I am only shifting into this anterior position, because that's why we're measuring from the line up top in the direction it's going, to see if I can bring myself in that position. Seeing from the front, it would be like this. You would see that my hips are the only thing moving here. I am not moving like this. I am not trying to do the robot in some 1980s terrible way. I'm just trying to move at my hips. All right, so now that we got the anterior tilt done, which is here, going into that duck butt, we want to see if we can go into the posterior tilt. So that would be curling your hips forward like the old man that walks down the street. So from here, we're just bringing the pelvis, we're tucking it under. And you're gonna realize, which is quite interesting, is look what all of this does to my shoulders. So that is why I kind of say I specialize in lower back and shoulder pain, because often the shoulder pain comes completely from the lower back and hips. Because as I'm going into this movement, I'll turn this direction, you can see that my shoulders completely drop. Now, you can also notice that I'm not doing, I don't even know how that would be, this, I guess. Yeah, I'm not moving from here. That might look a bit funny. I am literally just moving my pelvis. And I always joke and say, men, when they come see me, I say their wives will love them, and wives, the husbands will love them. Because when you're able to do both, you're able to move your pelvis in a nice, dirty dancing way. So I can isolate my hips and my pelvis to go into the anterior tilt, posterior tilt. Anterior tilt, posterior tilt. But before we do that, we want to be able to separate both of them. So the anterior tilt and the posterior tilt without getting this, I don't know, rocking motion of someone that's like 95 years old and never danced in their life. That is not what we want. All right, so now we got the lying version. So from the anterior posterior tilt, we're gonna work more on the posterior. So we're gonna work on flattening the back. And what I mean by that is you're gonna realize you have a little curve right here under your back. And what you can either do is you can have someone put their hand under there. You can put like a handkerchief, because when you flatten it, you're not gonna be able to get that hand out or the handkerchief out. This is the way we do it in physiotherapy when we're working with clients. If you're alone and it's a bit uncomfortable to have your hand like that, all you want to do, and don't mind my hands, so I'm just trying to keep them out of the way, is try to flatten that back, and you're flattening it from the movement of your pelvis. So I'm not trying to push myself through the ground. It's actually just the opposite. I'm just using my pelvis here to flatten my back against the ground and get that into a neutral position. Because when we go from here back to the where there's a curve in the lower back. We're going back into the anterior tilt of our spine. So we're really able to practice the anterior tilt because that's what we're starting in, and then go into the posterior or the neutral tilt because we're taking the flatness out of our back. All right, so now we got the lateral tilt, and what that means is if my pelvis is here, I want to see, I'll start with the right side first, if I'm able to just bend this pelvis up. Now, the trick is you're able to pick your foot up off the ground. I don't think you can see it in this camera. I'm sorry about that. But what I'm able to do is I'm allowed to bring my heel in the air because, yeah, really, if you didn't, you would then be bending down on it, which is a whole different story. So what I want you to do now is feet flat on the ground, and it's okay for the heel to come up because I want to see if you're able to just bend that pelvis in a lateral motion, if you will. And you got to be able to do it both ways. So also on this side. So from the side, I always get my hand out of the way. Hi, boys and girls. Sorry, a little bit of a weird stance. I don't think I'd ever stand like this, and I suggest you too not to stand like this. But from here, just so you can see it, so my elbow is out of the way, my arm is out of the way. This is what I'm looking for. Now you realize it is just that portion of my body that's moving. I'm not doing like this or this. That's not the goal. We want to isolate these movements because we don't want your pelvis to be like this window metaphor in grandma's house that never opens, and then we buy a new house or we throw the whole house away because we think it's broken when really it's just the one window. All right, for the lateral hip pop, if you want to call it that. Again, I hope this angle is okay. Maybe I move myself just a bit, but lying on the ground, what I want to do now is obviously I'm going to go to the right side. Is you see my hip just pulling boop up to the right, just like that. So from here, what I'm trying to do is not move my entire body and look like a fish struggling for water, but just see if I'm able to hike my right hip and then obviously my left hip too, and be able to, one, move cleanly, efficiently, two, see which side is better, and three, as I do them, am I able to do it all in a unison order and really understand what I'm trying to do? Or is there a certain movement that's more difficult than the others? Because if there is, secret is, that might be the reason that your back is painful. All right, so now we got the extra credit in some definite dirty dancing. This is a move we don't do so much in salsa, but is a little bit more popular in the sensual bachata is how we say it. And what it is the figure 8 with the hips. And what is nice or very interesting with this is you will realize as your hips start to move through this figure 8, you get different pressure on your feet and on your heels. So what I'm doing is, everybody knows, hopefully the figure 8 is like this. That's what I'm doing in this direction with my hips, as my mic always falls down. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go towards my right first. So that means I shift almost on my left heel in the front of my right foot, and I turn as if I'm making that figure 8. And then as I wrap that corner, I go to my left heel and more into the front foot. And what I want you to do is just exaggerate the movement and see if you can get that figure 8 motion. So from the side, it would look like this. And I automatically also do my hands sometime. I'm trying not to, just to get them out of the way. But you can see as I turn this way, my hips are turning and then they're wrapping the corner, turning again to go diagonally forward and then wrapping the corner. And I just want to see if you can get, I should get my feet straight, that motion to where your hips are moving and they're in unison with your legs. Because when you can segment the movement from your hips and you can feel it in your entire body, you will realize that a lot of pain you think you needed cut away and a new spine and all that jazz disappears, because now you're putting that oil back in your engine, you're getting that lotion back in your motion, and everything works just fine. And then if it hurts, then you can see your allied health professional, your medical guru, whatever, and then make the next step. But first, before that window doesn't open, we don't grease it up a little bit, we can't throw the home away. All right, so hopefully your shoulders, your back, your this, your that, everything is feeling better. You guys have seen all the links throughout the video, websites gtsgermany.com. If you like these videos, hit the subscribe button, comment below, start a conversation. I'm not doing these for myself. I want to talk with you. Let's discuss what's going on. If you didn't like the video, let me know that too. And check out the free links, man. I got the 30-day Unbreakable Body Challenge. Sign up for that. It's on my website. Links are below. Totally free. I don't hassle you. I'm just trying to fix your shit. So check it out. Thanks so much. Follow me on the Instagram channel. Follow me on the podcast. Let's become friends. Let's have fun. And goddamn it, let's become pain-free.